Hello, everyone, and welcome to this amazing effort of for Asthma and Lung UK. We don't actually have anyone online at the minute, so this is very much for recording purposes only, and I'm sure we'll repeat this in a minute. Oh, we do. We have a couple coming on. We'll wait for a few more, but thank you so much, Nicola, for joining me and being such an amazing support for this.
No problem at all.
So let's get the boring stuff done while we're waiting for everybody to join. So this is a official world record attempt for the WRCA. So this will be from 12 o'clock till 1 o'clock. We do have a timer up here, which has gone off the timer, but it will be back on in just a second. And so at 12 o'clock, we will have that on, and that will be counting down the exact hour. All the questions will be read out by the amazing Nicola Allen from the University of the Built Environment. All of them will need to be answered clearly. We do have 4 reviewers or auditors in the room, which you won't be able to see on these cameras. But effectively what they are is making sure that everything is accurate. What I say is not just me making things up, and it is actually factual, which we can use for this record attempt. And yes, so that is basically for me. There is no more housekeeping than that. From 12 till 1, unfortunately, we can't actually accept comments or live questions because of the way that we are tracking the questions. They were pre-submitted by students, alumni, and the general public. We've had this out through TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. So yeah, it's been a fantastic amount of questions. We have 70 questions. We probably won't go through them all because we do want to make sure that we're giving accurate answers to each one, rather than just smashing through and to get a world record. We want to make this as useful as possible. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Nicola, who has some amazing things to say.
Yeah. So hello and welcome everybody, and very much thank you for joining us for as we've already said, this really truly unique and important event. So today, as we all know, we are coming together to officially try a world record attempt in answering the most questions about home environment and well-being in 1 hour. Now, this isn't just about setting a record, it's very much shining a spotlight on what's very much overlooked in public health challenges of our time nowadays, and also how it sort of affects directly our health, our comfort and quality of life, etc. So our homes influence far more than we actually realize. So from the air we breathe to the quality of our sleep, we all love a bit of sleep, don't we? And to the ability to concentrate as well. That's what's really important. Staying warm, maintaining, long-term respiratory and mental well-being as well. That's why it's very important about having a healthy home. So, we have issues that range from air quality, damp, mold, heating inefficiencies, noise, lighting. They all affect about our healthy home and how we live. So, as we've already mentioned, so my name is Nicola Allen. I am head of School of Construction, Surveying and Engineering at the University of the Built Environment. So my background is building surveying with very much particular interest in building pathology. So what we see in our homes in terms of pathology is very much affecting our well-being. And as part of my role at the university, I very much work closely with academics, students, industry partners, and to ensure that all our programs addressing various issues, especially what we're talking about today, and talking about housing standards, etc. So the university, as we all know, is very much a specialist higher education university dedicated to advancing, education in research, professional practice across the built and natural environments. As well, we have a very strong focus on sustainability. And the university works very closely with industry partners like yourselves that are watching today, and also professional bodies, to ensure that what we are teaching can be applied in the working environment as well. And we have that opportunity as a university to be very online and that flexible provision as well. So, as we know, this event is kindly hosted by Jason Ratcliffe, who, as we all know, is known as the Wellbeing Surveyor. I'm sure there's going to be T-shirts made after this, Jason. But you're very much, as everybody knows, a building surveyor, a researcher, specialising in healthy homes, indoor sort of air quality, damp ventilation, and environmental well-being as well. So, as we've already mentioned, in the next hour, Jason, the pressure is on. We'll be answering live in real time, drawing on evidence and professional practice and lived experience. So, very much the university, Jason and myself are very proud to be partnering with the Asthma and Lung UK, very much to raise awareness about respiratory health, which is really, as we know, critical to housing conditions and how they sort of play on our well-being. And as an academic partner as well for this world record attempt at the University of the Built Environment, we're very happy to support Jason and the team by coordinating and submitting the questions, as we mentioned, from students, alumni, academic staff, and ensuring that as well the session meets robust academic and evidential standards. So that is my sort of welcome to everybody. I hope you all enjoy this event. It's going to be very interesting, very speedy, and there's got a lot of pressure on Jason. But this event also is the opportunity, if you're here as a member of the public as well, to sort of get some interest in healthier homes as well. And yeah, Jason, myself, and the rest of the team are very delighted to have you here and also be part of history as well. So yeah, all the best, Jason. We hope this event is going to be a success.
Thank you so much, Nicola. And I couldn't have put it better myself. So just really going on what the Asthma and Lung UK charity is about and why we're partnering with them. They are one of the leading charities in the UK that are specifically focused on helping vulnerable people, people with respiratory issues, obviously asthma, as the name indicates, but they also are there in the sense of helping and being an advocate for research, moving forward with transparency in home environments, and just trying to basically do what we're doing here and help as many families as possible. So yeah, if you do have absolutely any funds available, even if it's £1 or £5, whatever you can give, the link is below in the share on the screen. It's also in a lot of the posts that we do as well. So yeah, it's really, really amazing. We've already hit over £300 so far. We do want to, that's a great effort, but we do want to really push it as much as we can, because the more we can raise, obviously, the more people they can help, especially those that can't afford to get professional services. So Asthma and Lung UK is the chosen charity we're supporting. So hopefully we can raise some more money for them. But also in regards to this this hour, if you can give 5 minutes of your time just to clock in, that's absolutely amazing. If you want to stay for the whole hour, by all means, you are more than welcome to. We will try and do a short Q&A if we do have other comments and things that at the end of the attempt. This will be obviously outside of the world record attempt, but it would certainly, I would hate to leave anybody that is viewing left with questions. So yeah, we'll do that afterwards as well. So yeah, fantastic. I mean, Nicola, I know we've got a bit of time here as well. So I mean, the university's just had a rebrand. It's moving forward. You know, I'm an associate fellow because I proudly did my master's degree with you guys, and we do a lot of things like this, sustainability. We do the Climate Action Awareness Week and things like that. So, you know, tell us a bit about what makes the university so special, really.
I think the university is so special because we're so niche in terms of we concentrate on the built and natural environment, and every profession will have some link to well-being of a building, whether it's a home, an office, and that is why we are so unique, because we do home in on this sort of the niche of professionalism and understanding things. Especially, I'm gonna sort of shout out to building surveying, because you know, why don't we? But as building surveyors, we are, they jokingly call us, don't they, the doctors of buildings. And we go around and we look at things, and we can see how something like, for example, evidence of mould in a building, in a property, how that can affect someone's well-being, but also actually how it can affect the integrity of a property as well. And then also, you know, as part of the university and what we teach is how, yes, we've identified the issue and the sort of the problem, but how are we going to rectify it? What are we going to do? What is that going to be a benefit to you know, the person in the building or the homeowner, etc. So we're very much, it's that sort of holistic approach in terms of our learning and understanding, really. And that's what makes us unique. We're not battling against any other sort of faculties or departments. We're just one big, happy sort of built environment team. So and it's great because students get the opportunity to learn with other professions as well. So like real estate will learn with building surveyors, etc. So it allows that collaboration, that learning as well. And as you mentioned a moment ago, sustainability is such a key driver, just not just within the built environment beyond the university, within the professional bodies, but also within our teaching as well, because sustainability is a key thing going forward into ensure we have buildings that have a long, you know, lifespan, really, from, as they call it, cradle to grave, so to speak. So we need to kind of look at things in that holistic way as well. So that's how unique we are, and we've got lots of other exciting things coming forward. And I won't give too many spoilers away because this, I don't want to take the light away from you, Jason, not at all.
No, I mean, to be honest, I know of some of those. I probably don't know of all of them, but yeah, it's so exciting, and I'm part of some of the things that are coming up as well, which yeah, we'll keep under wraps for now. But it just makes the university just at the forefront of what you do, and the passion as well. When you come in to the university and you see kind of the tutors, the alumni, everybody is just under one focus. So yeah, it's a lovely kind of a vibe, and it's a true vibe as well. I think there's too many universities or organizations that I suppose greenwash, and they just, you know, it's more of a front, whereas, you know, you can just see that it's down to the core of your university. And I think that's amazing. So we're in the final minutes now of getting ready. So yeah, if you need, we've got a few people on at the minute, so if you need to have a quick refreshment break or anything else, and you want to stay along for the whole hour, you've got a couple of minutes now. That includes everybody in the room as well. We've got, so I wish I could turn the camera around and show everyone, but it will ruin the setup. But yeah, we've got a great audience today, and a lot of people staring at me with clipboards and making sure that I'm saying the right thing. So yeah, and like I say as well, by the end of this, by all means, if there is something that you want more information on, if we haven't quite touched on something, or if we've lent on something, or I've answered something partially for you and you're interested in a more in-depth answer, by all means pop it in the comment section. We won't be looking at it until 2 o'clock, so please don't be disheartened if you don't get a response. And then at 2 o'clock, when the official world record attempt is over, we'll then go through those, and if there's anything there that we need to answer, then we will do. So yeah, I think we've covered everything, really. I think that's pretty good timing, right?
Yeah, it's like we've got it down to a T. We've practiced this.
I know we've done so many not rehearsals. But no, I just want to thank you and everybody else as well at the University of the Built Environment and Asthma and Lung UK, and the whole team here as well, and everyone who's supporting it at home, watching, and the shares, even the sharing on social media, and everyone who's supported us through the Asthma and Lung Just Giving page as well. It all means a lot to us. So thank you very much. Wow, we are in the final minute, so let's get this ready to go. Let's go. Right, let's wait for that clock. We've got about 45 seconds, I believe, before we go live. Are you ready with your questions, Nicola?
Oh, I'm ready. I feel like I should be wearing a sparkly coat, actually.
You should. Yeah. Well, I've got an Asthma and Lung t-shirt on. You can't see it, but it's here. So yeah, absolutely. Wow. Let's wait until that clock gets to 12. So we've got 20 seconds. And let's go.
Right. First question. What is the single most important factor for a healthy home?
I think this very much is ventilation. I think ventilation above everything else is so important. Obviously, other elements are extremely important to make sure you've got a healthy home. But if you don't have natural ventilation, you're not going to be able to shift those pollutants and air quality issues from your property. So yeah, 100% ventilation is the biggest one.
Yeah, brilliant. Can a home be too airtight, and how might this affect indoor air quality or occupant well-being?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and very much yes. The answer is yes. It can be too airtight. We've got passive homes or passive housing. We've got new air tightness regulations around, building regs, etc., which are trying to be obviously as airtight so that you're not getting any heat escape from the property. But the problem with that is without adequate ventilation, so passive or background ventilation and mechanical ventilation, you're going to get increased air quality issues. You're going to get raised carbon dioxide, reduced oxygen levels, higher moisture in the property as well. So that can then lead to black spot mold and other things that can be an issue.
Yeah. Are modern homes healthier than older homes?
It's a really good question, and no, not necessarily. Older homes, particularly historic, so stone, cob, those, they're built for breathability. They have that natural, almost people call them drafty, but they're drafty for a reason. And I think that then allows the shift and exchange of the air in the property, so you're not going to have so much stale air. Plus, modern homes, as we know, have a lot of insulation like Kingspan, PIR insulation, things like that, adhesives that can have off-gassing, which then increases your the risk of pollutants and poor air quality in your home. And also, again, their air tightness can actually be an issue in the sense that they can then compound the issue because you're not getting enough ventilation through that property.
Yeah. So, the question here is: can older homes be healthy to live in?
Yes, absolutely. So I think, in my opinion, and there is a lot of facts and evidence around this, that older homes, particularly kind of the 18 to 1900s, where you got solid stone, brick, etc., they can actually be healthier to live in the sense that they can regulate temperature a lot more if you know how to correctly maintain and live in those types of properties. They can also improve the air quality where you've got higher absolute humidity, so you've got higher moisture in the air, but with that air ventilation and the air flow, it actually then allows for more of those pollutants to be taken away from the property. So as long as you understand how to live and maintain in those properties, the older ones, then yes, they can absolutely be healthy to live in.
Yeah, brilliant. So, is ventilation more important than heating?
It is, and I get loads of different debates on this, but obviously heating is important. I'm not saying it's not important, but if you have heating without ventilation, eventually you're going to have a big issue because the higher the temperature of the air, the more moisture and the more water that it can retain, and then therefore there's a lot more air pollutants that can also be there. It can accelerate condensation and black spot mold. But with ventilation, if you have ventilation alone, yes, you're going to have issues with heating. But hypothetically speaking, ventilation is definitely more important if you're going to have ventilation or heating because it allows the replacement of that air. And if you've got moisture laden air as well, it can get rid of that. So it actually then provides a lot more health benefits than heating alone.
Yeah. So leading on for that, is natural ventilation enough in modern homes?
Absolutely not. No. And too many people say, "Oh, we've got extractor fans. We don't need to open windows," or vice versa. And actually, because modern homes are a lot more airtight, so actually we're focusing more on thermal efficiency. Opening a window or a trickle vent is not enough alone. You need adequate mechanical ventilation. So extractors within shower rooms, bathrooms, extractor hoods in kitchens. So yeah, the answer is no, it is not enough by itself.
Yeah. So can housing design influence stress levels?
It absolutely can. So the layout of a property is so important because obviously every home and every family is going to have different reasons for using that building. There may be some people with physical disabilities. There may be people needing specific supports within their homes. So yeah, absolutely. And also just from a standard home design, if you've got something open plan, for example, can be really difficult if you've got sitting rooms and kitchens, because you end up, if you're trying to relax and you've got a I don't know, washing machine going nuts in your kitchen, and and then obviously you can't then fully relax in your living room, and vice versa. If you've got boilers and things right next to your bedroom, for example, and they're noisy and they're not well maintained, you may then end up with issues regarding noise pollution in your home, which then can really affect the things like sleep cycles and things like that.
Yeah. So can a healthy home reduce healthcare costs?
Yes, and this is something I am absolutely an advocate for, and trying to get healthcare professionals to kind of align with building professionals, because essentially, if you've got a nice, clean, healthy home, well ventilated, you're going to rest better. You're going to have a lot less issues regarding respiratory issues. Your immune system will be increased. You'll get a nice stress relief, re-energized in your home, and naturally, mentally, physically, spiritually, you will feel the benefits of a healthier home.
So does opening windows every day still matter in the winter?
Yes, it matters all year round. I think the only difference in winter months is obviously when it's wet outside, so you need to manage the time in which you're opening windows. You don't necessarily want to if it's freezing outside and downpours, because all you're really going to do is increase the absolute humidity in your home. But hopefully there'll be times in the day where it might not be raining as hard. We're talking England here, so rain is quite a common occurrence in winter. But yes, absolutely, the shift and the replacement of kind of stale air with more fresh air, even if there's slightly increased humidity in that air, is always a benefit. It's much better in the summer, in the sense you obviously can open windows and doors more frequently. You don't necessarily have to think about it, but it is really important in the winter, particularly, to really think about air replacement in your home.
Yeah. So can opening windows briefly be effective?
It can. I mean, the simple thing is opening a window, even for 5 to 10 minutes of a day, is so important, because what it allows you to do is it then shifts that air through your property. Ideally, you want kind of 20 minutes, 40 minutes if you can, but obviously it's very much dependent on where you are, your living conditions. Are you able to effectively and afford to heat your home properly? Because obviously that temperature will drop, especially in winter months. But also what you're looking at is, ideally if you've got a multi-story house, make sure you have a good airflow. So open a window at the top, open the door or a window at the bottom, to allow that airflow through the whole property, so you don't get stale pockets of air.
Yeah. So is it important to ventilate bedrooms at night?
Yes, and it's something that is really important. It's probably one of the most important rooms to ventilate, because you're in there for a long period of time. You're exhaling, sorry, moisture, which is then going to increase the absolute humidity in the room, which then increases condensation of black spot mold. But also, because you're breathing in and you're using oxygen levels can deplete. carbon dioxide levels can increase, and it can affect your overall sleep and your circadian rhythm. But also, what it can do is you can kind of wake up tired because of the oxygen levels being lower as well.
Yeah. So does sleeping with the bedroom door closed affect air quality?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, if you have other things in place like opening windows, trickle vents, or you've got some kind of air conditioning filtration system in your room, then not so much. But if you don't have any of those things, or if it's a colder day for it or a colder night, for example, yeah, leaving the door open will help with that airflow through your property.
Yeah. So can indoor air quality change throughout the day?
Absolutely. And this is something which is so important because effectively, when we're doing snapshot in time inspections on people's homes, it can give a false misconception. So if you end up doing an air quality test at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday, for example, that is just a snapshot in time, and it can greatly be affected by how occupants behave in the property. So obviously, if somebody's putting loads of deodorant on, that's a spray, or if you're putting candles on, or if you're cooking and showering, plus when you're opening windows and doors and how that then interacts with the outside air. So there's a lot of contributing factors of how that air quality can shift in your home throughout the day.
Yeah. So is air quality worse upstairs or downstairs?
I mean, there is research to suggest that upstairs it can be worse because obviously warm air rises, which then effectively will allow moisture to travel upstairs as well. So, yes, I suppose textbook answer is yes. But I think it really depends on how the property is laid out. If it's a reverse level accommodation, because obviously it may well naturally then be worse upstairs if you have kitchens and a lot of steamy stuff happening upstairs. But yes, the answer is yes, it can be worse upstairs.
Yeah. Okay. So does airflow matter even in clean looking homes?
It matters, in my opinion. I think it matters even more because the visual cues of an uncleanly home are not there. So you automatically feel like your home is clean, it's healthy for you, and actually a lot of the stuff that can affect you and your family's health is invisible. Is invisible to the eye. It's pollutants, it's toxins, it's mycotoxins from black spot mold. It's any kind of things like formaldehyde, PM 2.5, PM 10, all of these kind of particular matter that can go into the bloodstream and through the lungs, which can also be carcinogenic. So it can actually increase the risk of cancer, etc. So all of this stuff that affects your health actually is invisible. So actually having a clean looking home does not necessarily mean that it is a healthy home.
So leading on to that, can a home smell clean but still have poor air quality?
Absolutely. And I suppose the definition of smell clean would be cleaning products. And actually, then the argument could be there to say, well, actually, a healthy home may not be a home that necessarily you relate to smelling clean, because if you're smelling bleach, if you're smelling harsh cleaning products, mold treatments, that can be quite aggressive. To some people, that could then be, oh, okay, my home smells clean, but actually you're off gassing and you're emitting a lot of toxins and air pollutants into the atmosphere internally in your home. So, the argument is there. And research does suggest that actually a clean smelling home could actually indicate poor air quality.
Mm. Okay, so next question is, do air fresheners improve or worsen indoor air quality?
Yeah, most. Now, this is a general most because there are some that can odor neutralize. There are some natural type sprays out there, but air fresheners as a whole decrease or worsen the indoor air quality because yes, they smell nice. They typically musk, or they hide the actual smell or the underlying issues going on in the property. But normally, what's put into those sprays and those canisters increase the I suppose pollutants and the bad stuff, shall we say, without getting into loads of detail. But actually, a about, going into breathing, respiratory issues, but then also when it settles as well. So especially if there's dust in your home, there's research that actually suggests dust can protect pollutants as well. So if you then start dusting your home, a few days later, for example, or you sit on a sofa, it can then accelerate the issues in your home then as well.
Yeah. So are candles and incense bad for indoor health, indoor air?
They are, yes. And the majority, again, we are just saying the majority because we do have things like beeswax and other things that are healthier, or wax melts. But all intents and purposes, candles and incense can be really bad for the indoor air quality, particularly the fumes and what's given off into the internal air from the nice smelling scented candles and incense. Also, it reduces oxygen levels in your home. So yeah, especially within places like bedrooms or poorly ventilated areas, they're really not good to be in, especially if you're very sensitive or you have family members that are sensitive to that sort of thing. So if you are using them, make sure that you are ventilating that area, and also be particularly careful of the ingredients and the type of candles and incense you're using.
Yeah. So can pets affect indoor air quality?
Absolutely. And they affect it in way more than we just see. It's not the obvious necessarily. So the obvious is, I suppose, foreign contaminants coming in. So if you have a dog, for example, rummaging around in the garden, they then come in, whatever they're bringing in with them, can then be rubbed all over your sofas and your clothes and things like that. Plus, then you have fur and other allergens as well that can really kind of affect your respiratory issues, but also they are another living, breathing animal within the home. So they're going to be breathing, they're going to be exhaling a lot of condensation and more moisture, and they're going to also be using oxygen. So you need to then essentially treat them as an additional family member in your home, really.
Yeah. So does clutter affect airflow and well-being?
Yes, and yes. So clutter affects airflow in the sense it can obstruct a clear airflow through a property. It can also be a really good housing or protective barrier for dust, which then obviously houses and protects pollutants. So it can then also, if there's moisture, condensation, there can be hidden areas where mold can grow, where you may not necessarily identify, but it's still there. And also from a well-being perspective, from a physical well-being perspective, it could be a health and safety hazard. If you've got stuff on the stairs, for example, you could end up tripping down them. If you've got clutter, again, health and safety. But then from a mental health perspective, it's really important, because if you have, too much clutter in your home, there is a lot of research out there that suggests that it can actually have a big negative mental impact, because obviously you're feeling like you're not in control of your own environment.
So is condensation always a sign of a problem in the home?
No. Now, I think condensation is very much, it's just an indication that the moisture in the air has found a cold surface that's hit a dew point, and then it's condensated into liquid form. That's essentially what condensation is. Now, every home will have some level of condensation because you're living in it, you're cooking in it, you're showering in it. But if you're continuously having to wipe away condensation from surfaces and it's an ongoing problem, then yes, absolutely, there's probably something going on in the home that needs to be treated accordingly.
Mhm. So does poor ventilation increase condensation risk?
Yes, again, for that very reason. So ventilation, if we look at that, we're looking at the rate in which air is passing through and potentially being replaced in the home environment. So looking at bedrooms, bathrooms, etc., or a whole holistic house, basically then that air is not able to escape and be replaced. And if you then have the heating up, so therefore the temperature of that air rises, you can get a lot more, it can hold a lot more moisture, which is then where absolute humidity can be higher. So if you then have poor ventilation, that has nowhere to go. So you've got an awful lot of stored water or moisture in the air, nowhere for it to go, and then therefore it can then start accelerating condensation issues in your home.
Yeah. So is moisture in the home always visible?
No, and this is a big thing as well, which with well-being in homes is a lot of what we research and what we suggest and monitor is invisible, and a lot of it, such as moisture, for example, in the air, you can feel it necessarily because high, I suppose, moisture content in air can have an increased feeling of heat in the property. It can regulate heat, which is also why in the evenings it can feel hotter for no apparent reason, particularly in the summer. So moisture is not always visible in a home. It becomes visible when it becomes a problem in the sense of, increased condensation, mold growth, if there's damp stains or any kind of patterns of increased moisture that is becoming condensation and dampness in the property.
Yes. So how quickly can mold start to affect health?
So this is a really, really important question in the sense that not everyone is affected by mold in the same way. So there can be people, which is also why a lot of people don't believe that mold can be a health issue, because those people may not necessarily be affected by it or as much. But the thing is it can affect people's health pretty much immediately as soon as that then becomes visible or even just apparent or in existence within the home. That can then start releasing mycotoxins. It can start causing issues with respiratory issues in people. So effective immediately, as soon as that starts being created and formed within the home, it can be a health issue.
Yeah. So is mold ever harmless?
Not in this context, absolutely not. Any type of mold in a property will inevitably have health risks and should be treated as such, and also treated with appropriate and health, I suppose, the healthiest options of being treated. So the harmful chemical stuff is almost worse than mold itself. So yeah, no, mold is never harmless.
Yeah. So can mold return if the cause is not addressed?
It's not a session of can, it's when. So absolutely, it will return. If someone is only treating or kind of wiping away the visible mold, whether it's damp ingress, if it's condensation, ventilation, insulation, heating issues, whatever is the reason for that mold being there in the first place, if the source is not addressed and identified, then the mold will return. Absolutely.
So does damp affect the structure of a home as well as health?
It does, and I see damp coming in, penetrative, rising damp, whatever damp it is, eventually then starts affecting the materials of the home, so it can then start deteriorating plaster, the construction, if it's got wall ties, particularly if they're earlier than 1980s roughly, they're not as well galvanized or not galvanized at all, so they can start rusting, and then they'll have what you'd call wall tie failure, so you then have structural issues. You can then have lintels, particularly at where the guttering system is. So particularly at the top of your home, if your gutters are blocked, they can then have overtopping and water ingress coming into your home, which can then cause lintel failure over time. So yes, absolutely, damp is one of the things that can notoriously cause structural issues to a house. And the reason is as well is because people don't necessarily think it's as bad as it is. They think, oh, a gutter's blocked, fine, but actually it can have much bigger impact.
Yeah. So does sunlight help reduce damp and mold risk?
It does, yeah, for numerous different ways. One, it obviously increases the temperature inside the home, so it helps then dry things out quicker. It helps massively then regulate damp within the home, which then effectively then can help kill mold itself. But again, it cannot do this without ventilation because it will just resettle somewhere else. So as long as sunlight then raises the temperature, dries the surfaces, etc., that are affected by damp and mold, and you're treating the mold, you then need ventilation to replace that air from the property itself.
Yeah. So is it normal for bathrooms to stay damp after use?
No, absolutely not. If you've got a well ventilated, insulated, and heated bathroom, they should dry relatively quickly. So you are going to get some condensation. It's inevitable. You're going to need to just wipe it down just to make sure you've got no moisture in there. But making sure you have adequate extractor fan with an adequate runoff. So after you've used the bathroom, whether it's a shower, bath, whatever it is, that steam can then discharge out of the property and not elsewhere in the property or condensates in the properties or in the bathroom itself. So if those issues do occur, there is something within that. I call it the golden triangle of insulation, ventilation, and heating. Something there is not quite right in your property, and you need to do something about it.
Yep. So are extractor fans more important than people realize?
Absolutely, 100%. Now, this is such an important question because the amount of people that turn off extractor fans, particularly in bathrooms, en suites, because they're too noisy, or they don't see the relevance of them, or they're an inconvenience, particularly if they're unmaintained as well, and they start kind of making that buzzy or rattling sound. So these extractor fans need to be well maintained. They need to be sufficient enough to have an adequate flow rate or air exchange rate through said bathrooms or kitchens, etc., to make sure that your property is getting rid of that condensation or the moisture laden air, and also the pollutants that may well be in the air as well. So 100%, yes, extractor fans are more important than people realize.
Brilliant. So have you got any recommendations for managing laundry and damp in the winter?
Yeah, so obviously, if you can, you want to be separating where you're drying your laundry. If you have it all in one condensate or one focused area, make sure that it's well insulated, well ventilated, and well heated. So a lot of people use utility rooms, but if you are using a focused area for drying your clothes, there is an increased risk of condensation and increased risk of absolute humidity. So spreading it out, well ventilating your home, and being super cautious of condensation buildup, because there is obviously, even if you're opening windows, you're increasing that absolute humidity in the air. You're then drying laundry in that property. It's going to just continuously have an increased cycle of absolute humidity in the air. So that ventilation and heating is so important to have in place, but also never dry laundry on radiators. That's a big no-no.
Yeah. So can drying clothes outside in the winter still help reduce damp?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't have apocalyptic days throughout the whole of winter. So sometimes we do have, the sunshine come out. So the more days you can dry clothes outside, the better, because what you want to do is reduce the amount of drying in the home. Because again, like we've just answered in question 31, that the more clothes you have indoors, the increased absolute humidity, and then obviously the more damp and condensation issues. So the more you can get that out of your home, then obviously you're reducing that risk of damp and condensation in that property.
Yeah. So does cooking without ventilation affect indoor air quality?
It does, absolutely. And I can't stress this enough, because so many people say, I don't need an extractor hood because I've got a window. And it's going to go, okay, well, windows are great, but, that background ventilation can actually then reduce the surface temperature of the walls in your kitchen, which can then hit the dew point. So you can accelerate condensation of black spot mold. So having the extractor hood, if you can, have an extractor hood externally vented, because then you don't have to worry so much about the filters and replacement of internally circulate or recirculating extractor hoods. But yeah, because it's effectively, as soon as you're cooking, you're going to get pollutants, you're going to get steam. This will all just accumulate and build up in that property if you do not have the relevant ventilation.
Yeah. So is opening windows during cooking enough?
Oh, I see. I've jumped ahead. I answered that one already. So no, it's not. And to be honest, there is a lot of research out there that says you shouldn't really open windows or doors when cooking or using the bathroom until you've finished and allowed the majority of that condensation and steam and air pollutants to exit through adequate mechanical ventilation, because again, what you're doing is reducing the temperature of the surface of those walls to the dew point, and not all of that condensation, or sorry, not all of that moisture laden air is going to be able to be extracted at a fast enough rate to stop it from then condensating on the walls. So yes, it needs mechanical ventilation.
Yeah. So are gas appliances a risk to indoor air quality?
They are, absolutely. Gas registered engineer needs to inspect these regularly. Annually is the typical guidelines, but effectively, what your the risk is carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. About if it's you have poorly maintained internal gas appliances, but also if the valves are inadequate on cookers, things like that, they can leak. So it's really important to make sure that you're keeping an eye on those. You have a carbon monoxide alarm in the property, but also even if they are well maintained, because effectively they are a fire, because they are produced by gas, they will reduce oxygen levels in the property, increase carbon dioxide levels, and pollutants that are burnt off from the gas. These are relatively safe. You are going to need an awful lot. This is not a scare tactic answer at all. You're going to need an awful lot of gas appliances on for it to be a risk, but yes, it is definitely a risk to indoor air quality.
Okay, so how does mold within the home impact your well-being?
So it can affect your well-being in so many different ways. Respiratory issues is a big one. If you're already asthmatic, or it can bring on asthma. There's a lot of people that have an onset of asthma coming in due to being in mold exposure. There's mold toxicity, which can then end up in your blood. It can then bring out skin issues, irritation. It can lead on to things like bronchitis, respiratory issues. It can reduce your immune system. It could affect your sleeping patterns and affect your circadian rhythm, so you can keep waking up. You don't get into a deep sleep cycle. And also neurodivergent occupants have also proven that it can affect their symptoms as well. So there's a whole different array of issues with mold toxicity in a home that has already been proven to affect your well-being.
So is it worse having mold in the bedroom?
Yes, mold in a bedroom is normally worse because you're in there most of the time. So obviously, if you're getting your 8 hours sleep, that's you're suggested to get. That's 8 hours of being in a room, particularly if it's not ventilated correctly. Of mold toxicity increase. If you're not ventilating it, you're just in a box essentially with a lot of mold spores, which can then circulate through and obviously get into your body. So yes, it is worse within a bedroom or compared to other areas in a property.
So can poor air quality cause headaches or fatigues?
Yes, it can cause both. So with reduced oxygen levels and increased things like carbon dioxide, things like formaldehyde, benzene, increased levels of PM2.5, PM10, air quality index, high risk, all of these types of things will often give you headaches, make you feel tired, but not be able to recover again. It's not able to, your body is not able to get enough oxygen, get enough rest, anxiety levels, stress is increased, inflated. So yes, the answer is yes, it can.
Yeah. So can indoor environments influence mental health?
Yes, we touched on this a little bit before, but how you clutter in your home, layout, paint, colors on the walls, wallpaper, features, stuff like that are a huge impact on mental health, particularly if you're using your property for multiple uses. So if you're working from home and you're living at home, how you then choose to use, say, the sitting room, for example. If you're then using that in the day for your office, you may then not be able to completely switch off in the evening because it's still then, in the back of your mind, even if it's subconsciously, you're still thinking it's a work environment. So you're going, oh, I could be doing that. I could be doing that. And 1 or 2 days, that won't really affect you that much. But over the course of months or years that you then choose that kind of layout, it's really important because it will affect your mental health. And also looking at things like ventilation, heating, comfort in your home, again, can help stress levels and anxiety.
So, can poor housing conditions worsen asthma symptoms?
It can. And I know a lot of people, unfortunately, that's actually been hospitalized due to poor housing conditions, because if you've got, you're a lot more susceptible to respiratory kind of issues, air quality, temperature. If there's moisture in the air, again, black spot mold, what your cleaning products are. So, yes, it can absolutely affect worse. It can affect asthma symptoms negatively. And it's normally those types of people that are the first people to feel poor housing conditions above anybody else. They'll notice it kind of tightening in the throat, harder to breathe, and you're going to probably need asthma pumps an awful lot more in that type of environment.
Yes. So, can children be more sensitive to mold exposure?
Yeah, children are normally the most sensitive to mold exposure because they're not fully matured, they're not fully developed yet, their lungs are still growing, and actually it can increase the risk of long time or long full life, I suppose, span asthma and issues, sinus issues, reduced immune systems, like we've said before. But all of these things in children can actually then be there permanently, rather than as adults. If you move out of a location, you can then potentially recover and resettle. Children do have a tendency of picking this stuff up over a much longer duration and being impacted more severely than adults. I mean, just take AWAB's law, for example. That's a prime example.
Yeah. So, can indoor air quality affect children differently to adults?
Yes, it can. So I probably answered this a little bit in the one before, but it's definitely something that their sleep rhythms can change quite a lot. They tend to wake up a lot more in the night. They obviously can't handle that. Their growth and development and brain development can be affected by this as well. They're an awfully lot more sensitive to kind of picking up colds and things like that, as well as the fact that they can then pick this up for a long period of time. So it's something I'm a prime example of this myself. Before this was very much well known, you then grow up with a lot more things like asthma, respiratory issues, allergies to dust, things like that can be completely resolved if the indoor air quality was actually positive in that property.
Yeah. So, does indoor air quality affect concentration?
Massively. So you end up having a lull, particularly if you're a good example of this is if you're in a single room for a long duration of time, whether you're gaming in a room or studying or working in an office. If you don't have windows open or don't go out for a walk, for example, and change that air in that particular room by about midday to 2 o'clock, you can end up feeling quite tired and fatigued, and then your concentration levels start dipping because the oxygen level in the room starts going down, carbon dioxide and other pollutants start going up, and the temperature as well in that room, if it's too warm, it can then also become an issue as well and can become quite stuffy. So all of these types of elements can affect concentration.
Yeah. So, can poor housing condition affect productivity when working from home?
Yeah, absolutely. So this actually affects people in a lot more ways than the obvious. So if you've got clutter, if you've got things to do, unfinished things that are visible to you, or tasks that you're not really supposed to be doing when you're in productivity mode, but subconsciously you can't focus on the work until that's done. So sidetracking, we've all been there. Sidetracking has a huge issue with that, but also productivity in the sense of where you can work, how you feel comfortable, how you then display yourself in meetings. For example, if you're on an online meeting but you're surrounded by clutter and anarchy and chaos, you're not necessarily going to have the confidence to be able to feel like you're in that meeting confidently. So all of those things, as well as air quality and ventilation, are so important to make sure your productivity while you're working at home is not affected negatively.
And does cold housing affect physical health?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you're in a property that is below 18 degrees, so the sweet spot is kind of 18 to 21 degrees, maintaining that throughout the year. If it's colder than that, you will end up having increased risk of respiratory issues. You'll have issues of colds, picking up all sorts of different bugs. Your immune system will be lower. Your body's going to be working harder to try and keep yourself warm. So the majority of the time, the physical health is negatively impacted by colder housing.
Yes. So is it better to heat a home constantly, sorry, or in short bursts?
Yeah, so this is something that I really was grateful is in the questions of this because it's so important and I get asked it so many times. So it's basically home heating a home constantly actually is much better than in short bursts. A lot of people think that turning the heating on and off as and when they feel the need actually isn't saving money. People think it does, but it really doesn't because the heating actually needs to work harder to increase that temperature of the room. And also what you have, which is called a thermal mass of the thermal storage mass of the building itself, the building materials retain heat energy. So if you then have short bursts, it disperses that heat energy, which then it needs to heat the materials before it can heat the air itself. So actually having a constant temperature or a constant heating balance is much more effective, both from a cost effective, but a health perspective as well.
Yeah. So does humidity affect how cold a home feels?
It does. We touched on this earlier. So, humidity, so the moisture in the air, so water actually has the highest thermal storage in any liquid known to man. And if that's then in our air, so you have moisture laden air, what then that means is the temperature, the air itself can store a lot more heat. So, it can affect so the more humidity that's in the air, the harder or the longer it takes to actually try and heat that air up because it's then able to store more before you feel the benefits. So, yes, humidity definitely does affect how cold a home feels. Absolutely.
Yeah. So can over insulating a home cause problems?
Massively, yes. So we had a huge thing about this called the greenhouse effect, which came in and we're still not over the problem completely. I don't know if we ever will be, but essentially, if you're insulating a home or over insulating a home where there's particularly areas of glazing where you're getting a lot of solar glare coming in, which is radiant heat, you can then end up with areas of your home which actually exceed comfortable or safe temperatures in your home. As well as overheating, you can then end up with things such as off-gassing to an extreme. So if you've got things that are synthetic insulations, which we typically use in more modern properties, if you've got an overkill of insulation, which doesn't need to be there, not only are you then not able to actively control that heating as well, you're increasing the amount of off-gassing. So all those pollutants, like formaldehyde, things like that are entering into the air.
So does sleeping in a cooler room improve well-being?
It does. So the thing is this is something which is a little bit of a fine balance because if you've got something which is too cold, now a cooler is the main word there. It's not a cold room. Cold rooms are something which will accelerate condensation and is not advisable. 18 degrees, I would consider a cooler room rather than the typical 22 to 24 degrees that some people may like. Our bodies can naturally rest easier and through the night if there's a cooler temperature in the room, but making sure it's not cold. Cold rooms will allow condensation, uncomfortable and unhealthy living conditions.
Yeah. So what are your top tips for saving energy in the home?
Yeah, so the big things really is maintaining heating. So not this off on type approach, making sure you have a constant temperature in your home, particularly in older properties as well, because you've got huge thermal mass of stone or cob walls, things like that take a long time to heat up. So if you then have 18 to 20 degrees in your home, it will stay constant for a lot longer. You can have a nice balance of temperature without costing the earth, but also that helps with damp problems as well, which then stops, if you've then got good ventilation as well, that then allows all of that moisture laden air to be out of the property, which then means the heating can then be maintained a lot more comfortably, and then making sure that things are insulated as best as you can. And you can have things like insulated curtains and insulated blinds, things like that, which can then really help in areas that may be harder to heat in your home.
Yeah, so how can new builds be designed to better air quality for individuals?
Yeah, so new builds, they do kind of touch on this extremely lightly, but unfortunately, a lot of new builds have, I mean, cost is a big thing. So a lot of the cheaper paints, cheaper materials, easily accessible commercially. So a lot of more synthetic insulation, stuff like that, are a lot easier. And there's a lot more understood by contractors, EPC assessors, building regulations, all of these people that are involved in quality control and construction. So a lot of these things actually then have a negative impact on air quality. So to actually, to make them design better, we need to then prove that other products, such as other paints that are a lot safer, a lot of safer insulations, adhesions, cleaning products, all of these types of things, and ventilation is a lot more accounted for an air quality perspective in homes.
Yeah, so what considerations are given to access to natural light when designing new homes?
Yeah, so under building regulations, I believe approved document O, we've got the amount of glazing and natural light exposure in new builds is absolutely touched upon, but unfortunately, it's not really considered in any depth at all for a well-being perspective of occupants. So it is something that drastically needs to be improved, and actually be able to say, okay, well, going back to kind of over insulations and things like that as well, you could end up easily having increased heating or overheating in a property, or underheating as well. It could be harder to heat because effectively building regs state 1.6 watts per meter squared Kelvin for a U value of a window. So if you've got large amounts of panes of glass on a north facing wall, for example, you could end up with a complete opposite effect.
So can building materials influence how a home feels to live in?
Absolutely, 100%. I think they're the things that do have this big influence of whether a home feels homely or not, whether or not you feel comfortable in a home, whether or not you feel you can relax. So things such as normal paints, which are are low risk VOC, still don't actually have the safe levels of VOC or volatile organic compounds for things to be safe in a home. So again, that new build smell, the materials used are so important. The coloring, the textures, the furnishings in a home, these all have a huge impact on how that home feels, whether it feels like you can relax there, you feel safe. So it then really affects your physical and mental well-being as well. So 100%, yes, it can affect in a big way.
So can carpets trap pollutants?
Yes, they can. So obviously we can have things like dust, we can have dirt, we can have cleaning products. We've got pets that run in and trap things on their feet, which can get off into all the nitty gritty fibers of the carpet, shoes, all of these sorts of foreign contaminants that we could try and clean our homes as much as possible. But they do, yes, they absolutely do trap pollutants. We do often say, as and where possible, hard surfaces such as tiles or vinyl, things like that, can be a lot more, they're a lot colder if you're not putting them in the right places. Obviously they do feel a lot kind of less homely if not used correctly, but they are a lot more easier to clean, particularly getting rid of pollutants in a home.
Yeah. So does furniture placement affect airflow?
Absolutely. It's the same kind of thing with clutter as well. So if you're putting wardrobes or big bits of furniture in the way of landings, hallways, or I suppose areas or flow paths of the air within a property. So going back to kind of the pressure differentials between external and internal, opening doors and windows upstairs and downstairs. If you've then got things that are obstructing that airflow, then it will have a negative impact. But also, if you've got to kind of think of it as a travel path. If you have a lot of moisture in that air, if it's then going to be restricted by some form of furniture before it can get outside, it's going to then potentially condensate and cause areas of hidden black spot mold or random areas of black spot mold, which you go, how did that get there? And it's because of this kind of issue in a home.
Yeah. So, what are the top 2 or 3 things renters can do to improve their home environments?
So the biggest absolute number one is lifestyle. So the way that people actually live in their homes, making sure that they are fully aware of how to use extractor fans, how to know if they need maintenance or how to report them to their landlords. Because effectively, if you do not have adequate mechanical ventilation in all the necessary rooms, you're going to end up having huge, big impacts. So yeah, being able to understand and identify those areas of potential issues, or if there's any double glazing failures, what to look out for, the misting and condensation in between the two panes, being able to identify those so you can then relay those and communicate them back to the landlord, so they are then able to say, okay, let's get those fixed, and they're aware of them as well. So that's something that's really important. But also, if you've got things, so going to, opening windows, for example, it's really important to have air replacement, being able to use the heating accordingly as well. So yeah, these are the top things I would say.
Yeah. So, is it possible to reduce damp without major building work?
For most parts, absolutely. I think there's a lot of misconception around having to have chemical injections or retrospective membranes put in place and things like that. A lot of the time, it can be down to the way you use your property, making sure that you're ventilating correctly, making sure you're not drying clothes on radiators. If you've got a big fish tank that's open, for example, you're going to get a lot of condensation that you may not necessarily anticipate. But also things such as heating and ventilation. So a lot of this stuff can really help with damp issues, and making sure you're maintaining constant heating in your property of around 18 degrees is important. But then things like lowering the external ground levels if you're in an older property, so it's not breaching the internal, any damp proof courses or anything that may be in place. Simple things like that that don't take a lot to get done can really help with damp issues as well.
Yeah. So, is it possible to improve well-being without spending money?
You can improve well-being in a home without spending a single penny, because a lot of it can be around clutter. It can be around the way that you organize your layout, your lifestyle, making sure your home is working for you and your family, not against you. It's really important. So take a notepad and pen and identify areas in your home that might make you feel uncomfortable, or might, notice physical ailments that may particularly occur in certain areas of your home, which then you can then actually then start being able to improve those areas more importantly than the others. So yeah, 100%. But also doing things again, like just understanding how opening windows, having, purge times of say 10 to 20 minutes in your home, using mechanical ventilation safely, wiping down condensation, not using harmful chemicals to clean your home. All of these things can really have a big impact.
Yeah. So, can small daily habits make a big difference to a home well-being?
Massive difference. The thing is, dust, clutter, things like that, unhealthy habits, mold growth, condensation, all of these things or they only become big problems when they are left over a period of time. So if their daily habits are wiping down condensation on windows, particularly in bedrooms and bathrooms, making sure, that the surfaces are dust free as much as possible, hoovering to make sure any kind of contaminants or pollutants are then kind of dealt with as and when they arise. If you spot any mold, or just check for mold, quick check around your home, around windows, doors, particularly in corners of rooms, ceilings, anywhere that mold typically likes to show itself and grow, and then just wiping it down and then keeping an eye on it to make sure it's not growing back. So simple things like that can have a huge impact.
Does lifestyle influence affect indoor air quality?
Yeah, massively. So yeah, we've got there's evidence now which is absolutely concrete to say, if you've got an EPC-A or a BREEAM excellent, your building is amazing in on paper. The way that you choose to use that can actually drastically reduce it to a poor energy efficiency, because if you're opening windows but whacking on the heating full blast, or you're putting the heating on and no ventilation, or a lot of people can they duct tape or they tape up extractor fans, because obviously if they don't have a thermal cutoff, they can be extremely cold, which is why bathrooms and WCs and things can be extra chilly. So the way that you use that is absolutely fundamental.
So does indoor air quality matter more in winter?
Absolutely, yeah, because in the summer, the external air is normally a little drier, it's warmer, you get a lot more sunshine. You naturally want to open your windows and your doors. You don't think about it necessarily from a well-being perspective. You just see it as, it's really hot in my house, I need to open up the doors and the windows. So whereas in the winter, everything's darker, it's you've got less sunlight, less natural heat and lighting, you've got higher absolute humidity, it's raining, you're going to have a lot more kind of damp clothes coming in the house, there's going to be a lot more drying of clothes in the house. So actually being focused on the air quality and how you manage that in your home, particularly in the winter, is so important.
What can people do to ensure consistent well-being levels all year round?
Yeah, so it's again going back to those small steps, those tiny kind of routines every day, making sure that we're opening windows, we're keeping the temperature consistent throughout the year, we're making sure that all the little issues are dealt with before they become big issues, but also just being aware of how you and your family are feeling and whether there's any patterns occurring in kind of, are you suddenly getting more colds? Are you suddenly not being able to sleep quite as well? Is you're always ask almost like well-being checks really for your family as well. Are you feeling okay? Are you noticing any issues in your home? But also you can have things like air quality sensors that are they're relatively inexpensive now, that you can have in your homes, so you can physically track the areas of potential problems in your home as well.
Yeah. So can housing design reduce seasonal illness?
Absolutely. It's something that I truly believe should be in every housing concept, every building regulation standard, every architect needs to be aware of, because at the end of the day, the way passive airflow or background airflow can be addressed and actually improve things, the way in which we are easily able to insulate and reduce cold spots in our home, being able to just make sure that the housing design works for us and not against us, because then that way you're going to be improving the air quality. You're then going to naturally reduce the amount of flu and colds and sniffles and everything else that you're getting, because your body is not then busy having to fight off the issues with inside the home environment, and it can actually deal with keeping your immune system up. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so can poor housing conditions affect relationships and family life?
It can, and it's a surprising effect, because not a lot of people consider it. So obviously, if you're not feeling very well, or you're tired, or you're elevated stress and anxiety or depression, anything like that can occur from poor housing, you naturally then are going to have strained relations with your family and your friends, because you're not going to necessarily feel social, or you might have a shorter fuse, and yeah, you can become a lot more irritable, particularly if you're unwell. So 100% poor housing housing conditions can have an effect, but also it's things like feeling if you're in control of your own life as well. So you're able to then go, oh, well, you know, if you're in poor housing, clutter, disorder, and it's messy or you know, dirty, then you can naturally feel like you may not be in control, and therefore your mental health is affected. And again, it can strain your family life.
Yeah. So, can poor housing conditions affect children's development?
Yes. So again, we touched on it very briefly earlier. Children are one of the most vulnerable groups of, I suppose, people that basically can then have these effects and feel the effects of poor housing conditions. So damp, mold, poor kind of lighting, anything like that, because you'll end up getting mood shifts. You can end up having poor quality of sleep. Your circadian rhythm can be disrupted, so therefore the brain development can be reduced, not getting enough oxygen, developing asthma, things like that, increased early onset of anxiety, stress, depression. All these things that can happen with adults are magnified within children.
So, can houseplants really improve the air quality in our homes?
Yes, they do improve the air quality, but to be honest, they do not replace ventilation. Ventilation is something that is absolutely crucial. I love houseplants. I'm a big advocate. I think they have a huge impact on well-being overall because of the physical, their physical presence as well, and nature bringing into the house. But from an air quality perspective, yes, they do improve the air quality, but not substantially enough to actually be able to get rid of ventilation. Ventilation is still absolutely key.
Yeah. So, what are the most common mistakes people make that affect their well-being at home?
Overkill on cleaning. So an overclean house can actually have a detrimental effect on the other way of well-being. So actually it can kill off all bacteria and things. So your immune system has nothing to fight against. But also poor cleaning products, things that could be harmful, for example, overkill bleaches, commercially available, really strong mold treatments that can actually be really harsh on your throat and your respiratory issues. So yeah, those sorts of things, and masking the smells. So if there's something that smells bad, rather than looking for the source of it, putting loads of candles and incense out, or air refreshers, things like that. So it's really important to make sure you're not overkilling that side of thing as well.
Okay. And can improving indoor environments improve quality of life?
That's it. I ran out of time. Way, the time has gone off. Woo! That was, I can't stop it now. Yeah, that was difficult. That was, getting on that hour. That was difficult. We did 66, did we? Was it 66?
No, 67.
Oh, it's 66, was it? Oh, 67. Okay, amazing. Well, there you go. Everyone's saying we did 67. That was great. That was really difficult. To just be like, bam, 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 bam. Thank you so much. That was amazing. How did we've got 16 people on, so we didn't bore anyone to death. That's really impressive. Let's have a look to see if there's any comments. We've got a couple here. If there's absolutely any comments, please drop them in. Ashley Wheaton, thank you very much for joining us. I feel blessed. That's amazing. He's a very busy man, a very important man. And thank you very much. We will be lingering for a couple of minutes just to see if anybody online would like to have any other questions answered. They will fall outside of the world record attempt. Hopefully we've done enough I think we have, because that was some pretty good rattling on. That was, Nicola. That was very good. Did you how did you think? How did you deal with that?
It was fine. I'm sitting there now going, thinking these are really good questions for student assignments going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the great thing. So, a lot of students, a lot of alumni and staff at the university have contributed. We got a lot from TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook as well, which was good, and YouTube Shorts. So yeah, we've the support for this has been amazing. So hopefully this has really helped with everybody who has issues. This will be available on playback as well, because I know we rattled through an awful lot of information. information. So and it will be cut down as well into kind of more snack size content as well. So it will be as useful as possible to people. But thank you so much for everyone supporting. Thank you again, Nicola. You've been amazing. Before we go, do you want to just give a very quick kind of who you are again? Because I know we've got a lot more people on, and what the university is.
Yeah, so if everybody's late to join, I'm Nicola Allen. I'm head of construction, surveying and engineering at the University of the Built Environment. University of the Built Environment is a very niche university in regards to, we just teach everything regarding the built and natural environment, ranging from real estate to quantity surveying, construction management, to architectural technology, and also, save the best till last, don't we, Jason? Building surveying. So exactly. So we do offer the opportunity for people to study online as well. So there's opportunity to work and study at your own pace as well. So whether you're in practice, but you want to have a degree to support that. So yeah, it's an exciting opportunity and a very interesting and university, and a lot of exciting things to come. So if you're interested, keep your eyes peeled on the university's website, and more will be revealed over the coming years.
Fantastic. And thank you so much, Nicola. Yes, I can't say we have officially broken it. We have officially broken it under the questions answered, but we need to then submit the evidence to make sure that the powers that be also acknowledge all of this hard work. But yeah, there will, as soon as I know and get that certificate through, I will 100% let everybody know. You trust me, you will hear about it. But beforehand, justgiving.com, the link's there. If you are wanting to donate anything, please do. Even £5-10 makes a big difference to Asthma and Lung UK. But thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, everyone in the room, and thank you for all of our partners. Woo! Amazing. Thank you, Nicola, and thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll sign off now, and we'll leave you. Have a great day. Thank you.